Ridge Racer is the game that sold me on the Sony PlayStation back in 1995. I played it at a video game store on an import unit in late spring. That got me to go to Electronics Boutique literally the next week with whatever money I could muster to pre-order a console, Ridge Racer and NBA Jam Tournament Edition, which I would pick up on September 9th of 1995. Ridge Racer to me is one of the better, if not one of the best arcade racing games around. It is not overly complicated. There's not a ton of unlockables or anything like that. It is all just about you, the racetrack, your time, and finishing ahead of your rivals or of your opponents. And that's really all it is. The game is colorful. It looks really neat. The soundtrack is memorable. It is very fast-paced. There is some drifting that is required to get around some of the tighter turns. You have to know when to corner, and the really crazy announcer compliments you on your cornering when you do it right. I just have so many memories of Ridge Racer, and its pseudo-sequel, Ridge Racer Revolution, which came out about a year later, which had different tracks, which was great because Ridge Racer really took place on one big track with different layouts. So it was nice to get new tracks, and I've been a fan of Ridge Racer ever since. But the game I'm going to be opening in this particular episode of Unsealed is a game that reminded me a lot of Ridge Racer to the point where I just impulse bought it, even though I knew nothing about it. And it wound up being an experience that I wasn't necessarily great at, but I have fond memories of it for two reasons. First, because I think the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. And second, because it would eventually give rise to a series of racing games that would debut on the Dreamcast and then go on to see more sequels for the PlayStation 2 that I really enjoyed as well. The game that I'm talking about in this particular episode is 1996's Tokyo Highway Battle, published by Jaleco and developed by Genki. And this game is an arcade racing game, but it is based somewhat in reality because it's based on actual highways and roads in Japan, which is pretty cool. Now, what's interesting about this game is that there is a dedicated drift button that you can use in order to drift around corners, unlike Ridge Racer where you'd have to double tap the brakes and tap the gas in order to power slide around the corner and get yourself, without losing speed, right back onto the track. This implements that button. We'll get to that more when we're talking about the gameplay here. But this is still sealed, of course. There is the Tokyo Highway Battle seal up there. This actually still has the pull tab right there, which we're going to be taking off. I am really happy that I found this because it is a game that I have enjoyed going back to every so often on the PlayStation, and the copy that I have actually was a new copy, and now I have a new copy to replace that one, and I can have the old copy to listen to in my car. This is one of those games that you can actually play on a CD player and listen to the soundtrack at will, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But let's go ahead and get this open so I can talk to you more about it. First of all, take a look at the back cover. There is a little bit of a story that I'll get to, as well as some features, and you can take a look at some of the screenshots as well. So, it says here, it was incredible, thundering through the neon-lit Japanese metropolis with 454 horses raging under the hood. This low-flying, asphalt-grinding, fuel-injected speed demon was screaming out loud. In fifth, I was pushing 6,800 RPM, but cooled off just long enough to take the hairpin turn. There was the awesome view of the Tokyo skyline at night, but no time to enjoy it. At the speed trap, I was clocked at triple digits, so the local heat was in pursuit. And that's when the real battle began. This story, by the way, is a bunch of bull. You don't get chased by the cops in this game. But we'll get more of that in just a minute. So the high performance features, you can customize your racer with turbochargers, exhaust intake, suspensions, brakes, transmissions, aerodynamics, tires, and electronics. 12 sleek world-class sports cars, 3D texture-mapped polygon graphics, and one supercharged CD soundtrack. I'm going to get to the car customization a little bit. That is another thing that set it way apart from Ridge Racer and something that I was just not prepared to deal with when I got this game. But before we get there, let's go ahead and open this up. The time for talk is over. We're going to try and get this open without scissors, and I think we have done just that. So we're going to try and open this and keep the disc on camera so that you can see everything as it happens. Going to rotate that around. There we go. That came off right away. And we'll try and open the top seal here. This is a game, by the way, I've never beaten. It is a game that before long gets very, very challenging. And because I am not a gearhead, I'm not really great with mechanics or parts or customization. I get to a point in the game where I don't know what to improve, and I wind up kind of putting myself in a corner. But I'm sure car fanatics would probably appreciate what's here. When we open up the case, we got to get rid of the plastic down the bottom. There we go. When we open up the case, we see, I love this, the purple and see-through logo, the Tokyo Highway Battle logo. We also have the instruction manual, and there are no ads on the back of this manual. It is just a straight-up manual. So there is the cover. When we open it up, it is in black and white. Unfortunately, it's not in color. This shows you, and if you look at the screen here, and I'm going to try and do it so, there we go, so you can see it looks like Ridge Racer. It looks just like Ridge Racer from that angle, except the cars are based on real-life cars rather than fantasy. And talks about drift driving. We'll get to the registration card in just a minute. So setting up your game, talks about the controller settings. And here it is, and I don't know if you can see it, there is a dedicated button for drift here. I believe it's L2. So that is different from Ridge Racer where, again, you can double tap the gas or the brake in order to power slide around the corner. This has the dedicated button for it, and it does take some getting used to. Scenario mode is 2 levels. Each level offers a battle with 3 drivers. Upon defeating 6 drivers, you will be given the honor of battling Japanese racing professional Keiichi Tsuchiya. I'm probably butchering that. Better known as the legendary Drift King. Win points that can be used toward the purchase of upgrade parts. You can also race against the CPU. And this shows you, this might look a little familiar to Tokyo Extreme Racer folks, is that you're really battling one particular rival here. And when we get further on, you can reconfigure the controller. It shows you the stats on the particular car that you have. There are only, I believe there are 3 different tracks in the game, although each of them I think gets a little faster as you go through them. It's been a while since I've played this, I'm being honest. And we talk about drift driving, which we looked at very briefly. Drifting can be done in 2 ways. For more experienced drivers, the traditional method of steering and accelerating is suggested. So you can still power slide, but you have to get used to the different button combinations and timing. If you're just starting out, there is a drift button that you can use, which is, again, is the L2 button. When coming up on a turn, steer lightly into the curve and hold down the accelerator to drift through. Keep your accelerator down and press L2. You'll slide through the turn. It's a bit tricky at first. Try this move in practice mode until you learn how to maintain control of your vehicle through the entire drift. We also have our registration card here that I'm going to show you really quickly, and it is a very basic registration card. Not really a lot of information that Jalico wanted from us. First name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, telephone, date purchased, gender, age. Did you rent this game before purchasing it? And that is it. You did have to put a stamp on it, by the way, if you were going to send it in. And what is most interesting about this game, again, for car fanatics, is there is a library of parts you can add and change out with your car that will make your car faster. You earn money or points, actually, in this game to be able to afford these parts, and then it's just a matter of experimenting to find the right set of parts for your car to make it the beast that it needs to be to beat the other opponents. And if you know about cars, and I certainly don't, then this makes more sense to you than it did me. You can also save your progress. And there's the gameplay screen. And again, I mean, look at that. That looks just like Ridge Racer, doesn't it? And that's what I saw in magazines. I saw the screen looking just like this, obviously in color, and it looks so much like Ridge Racer, I knew that I wanted to try it. But make no mistake, this is not a Ridge Racer game. This is far different and a bit more challenging. I do recommend this game, however, if you can find it. This only cost me about $15 brand new. So you can find now granted, I bought this a while back, so it may be a bit more expensive now. It is a fun racing game to play. If you are a racing fanatic, this is easy to recommend. If you're an arcade racing fanatic, you may want to look at this one, although there is a learning curve to it. And if you're a PlayStation collector, this will probably be in your library already. It is worth the money, and again, the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal, especially with the rock guitar in the background. The guitar licks on the soundtrack are really, really, really good. Good enough for me to want to play in my car, and that is saying something. So this is Tokyo Highway Battle from 1996 from September. Of course, just after this game came out, I wound up getting myself a Nintendo 64, playing Super Mario 64, and unfortunately, that's right around the same time that my paternal grandmother passed. And right around this time of year as we close in on Christmas, and you all know the NES story and how my grandmother got that for me back in 1990. So it is fun to kind of associate some memories with her. And I do have a couple of Super Nintendo games that I'm hoping to get to before the end of the year that also kind of make me think of her, just because the Super Nintendo is a system that I had when I was staying with her and certainly had a lot of use. In the meantime, if you have played Tokyo Highway Battle, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, if they are still active, of course. And I really do appreciate you guys watching this and all of the episodes of Unsealed. I really appreciate it. Until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next time.